Serving it up to you live on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. I'm Bruce Mullen. That's Nate Geary, and this is Food for Thought, a show combining two of your three favorite F words. That's right, food and football. And tonight, the third word is just fun.
Yes.
Fun, because Nate said to me when I told him that we were going to do a hot dog show tonight, he said, we're going to have fun. We're going to have fun. And you know what? I feel like after the week we've all had, I feel like fun is exactly what we need. Mr. Geary, how are you doing this evening?
Bruce, it's been a week.
It has been a week.
It's been like 2 years in a week. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 2.5. I feel like I've aged about 2 years in the last week.
Yes. I've aged a bit today. Just alone. I think I aged a year today.
Well, congratulations on your 31st birthday. As a reminder that today's show and every show is brought to you by the fine folks at the Genesee Brewing Company. Since 1878, Genesee has poured generations of brewing knowledge into each pint, can, and bottle of their beer. They make no sacrifices when it comes to their beer, brewing each with the highest quality ingredients for a consistently great drinking experience. Look for Genesee Beer, Genesee Light, Cream Ale, and their specialty line with beers like Ruby Red Kolsch and Oktoberfest. Genesee Brewery, Rochester, New York. You know, I don't have any Jenny here with me this evening, so I am literally drinking a Jameson Ginger right now. But if I had Genesee Pineapple Kolsch, I would just drink that instead. But yes. I'm on my third, I think, Jameson Ginger right now.
Oh, whoa, Bruce.
So
Bruce.
It's a Friday night. It's a Friday night, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo, Bruce. Yeah. Bruce is lit, y'all.
It's gonna be lit up.
It's gonna be lit
here. A reminder that any super chat that Nate and I get that is at or greater than $10 gets a Genesee pint glass. Just make sure you're following Genesee Brewery on Twitter and DM at Nate Geary Sports, proof of the super chat and the Genesee follow with your address, and he will send you out a Genesee pint glass. You know, Nate, the area between mini camps and training camps
is often
referred to as the dog days of summer. So I thought, now that we're in the dog days, we're going to title this episode Dog Days, and we're going to talk about dogs. First off, thank you for the people who are liking this. For those of you who haven't yet, just go ahead and hit all the engagement buttons for me. Like, subscribe, rate, review.
All the things.
Do all the things. Press all the magic engagement buttons. Nate's cat is in the background. JR says, hey, I just saw the cat. And Vlad asks if he missed the third F. Yes, the third F was just fun. Tonight. It was boring because we all need a little bit of fun today. It's the hot dog days of summer,
as
JR said. And so we're going to kick it right off by talking about interesting hot dogs. Now, I specifically left this as general and broad as possible. And the reason that is because I did not know until I started speaking in this space, creating content in this space, that the people of Western New York are passionate about their hot dogs. So the last time I was up and the last time I was in Buffalo was actually to drop off boxes for you. That was the last time I was in Buffalo because you were moving. And while we were there, we picked up some Jenny. We picked up a bunch of different things that were Buffalo or Western New York only. We also picked up a pack or two of each of the major regional Buffalo hot dogs. And I disappointed pretty much everyone I knew when I said that between all of the different Buffalo or Western New York or Syracuse hot dogs or Rochester hot dogs,
sure,
I didn't like any of them as much as I liked Hebrew National hot dogs. And they were all incredibly disappointed by me. And then I'll one-up it. The things I really like the best, I really like Costco's hot dogs. I'm a huge Costco guy, and I love the Costco hot dogs. So everyone was really disappointed in me. But I felt like there was an opportunity to redeem myself. So I did tonight with interesting hot dogs. Mr. Geary, you got something to say.
Hebrew National beef dogs?
Yes, beef.
Okay, so here's the big thing with Buffalo.
It's all pork.
It's all pork, yeah.
It's all pork. So it's just a different ball game, and it's a different preference. I will tell you I have not had too many good beef dogs. They're just a different flavor
different.
profile entirely.
And I think they mix well with other things. I think pork hot dogs go specifically with other toppings. And
With
we're gonna get to
mustard
that
and
in a
onion.
second.
With mustard and onion.
Also, not a yellow mustard guy.
Okay, well, that's half your problem is
Yeah,
a
not
good
yellow mustard
pork, Salins. I know I've told you this in the past.
Mhm.
I like Salins. It's a good hot dog. Wardinsky is here, though. You can't see it. It's up there. That's the best dog
Yeah,
in
I had
Buffalo.
that too. I
It's the
thought,
best dog in Buffalo.
I thought absolutely Wardinsky, we were going to do that. I had the Rochester hot dog, whose name is escaping me
Zweigel?
right now. Zweigel. I had that too. I had the whites and the reds, white hot and red hot. And I came away and I was like, my big takeaway from that was exactly what you just said. I turned to my wife and I said, I think I just like beef hot dogs better.
That's okay.
I think that's what this is.
Okay.
And I think that my inability to really appreciate plain yellow mustard is also a big part of that, because I like honey mustard. I like spicy brown mustard. I like Dijon mustard. It's the straight vinegar of a yellow mustard that I just can't get behind. My wife likes malt vinegar on her French fries, and I just can't get behind it. The vinegar is too much for me. So super vinegary things it's just not a thing for me. But we're going to kick it off with some interesting hot dogs.
Okay.
And you're going to go first. Tell me about a hot dog that would get you through the dog days of summer, Nate.
So I am all about the Chicago style dog. I enjoy the fact that the bun has got some life to it, right? It's not just a standard, normal white hot dog bun. You go to Costco, you go to Wegmans, you go to Tops, you go and you get the, what would you call it? The knockoff kind. It's just the store-bought, store brand. Doesn't actually have a brand.
Mm-hmm.
This one, you got the poppy seed on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a little bit more firmness on the outside. That's just the vessel, right? But I think that's an important vessel. And I'll tell you my preferred vessel for just a standard hot dog that goes a little against the grain. But in terms of just hot dog styles, I like that if I am given an opportunity, if it's on special and I'm going to my favorite hot dog place and, we got Chicago dogs today, because I like to have the pickle on there. There's something about a pickle aesthetic. I don't actually eat it with the hot dog. I just like to take the pickle off and eat it. But it's the aesthetic of it. And you get there's a lot to a Chicago dog. So I'll say, like, in terms of my favorite, are we going to call that a specialty dog? Specialty dog, I'm going to go Chicago style. Brooklyn style's not bad, but Chicago style to me is probably my preference there.
I would agree that the Chicago dog is the most aesthetically pleasing of the dogs, for
Yes.
sure. It has all your major colors involved. Yellow, you have the good little bit of celery salt on there. The poppy seed gives the bun a nice color. You have the tomatoes, you have the peppers, pickle and things like that. For me, I'm a Memphis dog guy. And for those of you who don't know what a Memphis dog is a pork sausage that's wrapped in bacon, and they drench it, they dip it in barbecue sauce. Then they put chopped onions, shredded cheddar cheese, scallions, and then they grill the whole thing. So I'm a Memphis dog.
Never heard
guy.
of this, Bruce.
Yes, Memphis dog. I've lived all over the country. Memphis dogs are my jam. If you can get a hot dog and wrap it in bacon, I'm pretty much in on pretty much everything, because I'm a huge bacon guy. There is a part of the country that really, really, really loves their Polish boy hot dogs. And they love kielbasa. And usually you see this in northeastern Ohio. You see it in the Cleveland area. And you'll get like a kielbasa and you'll put coleslaw on it. And the last time I had coleslaw, I kind of threw up, so I'm a little bit out of coleslaw right now. But they'll put hot sauce, barbecue sauce, and French fries on it. I'm good with that too. But for me, Memphis dog, number one dog, always number one dog. Huge, huge fan. Patton in the comment section says Portillo's makes a nice dog. JR says a Chicago style would be considered to be a Polish dog.
Okay.
Now, Karen, I have a question for you, Karen. Karen in the comment section says grilled dog, well charred with Greek sauce. By Greek sauce, do you mean tzatziki?
Slime? Is it? No, I would think slime sauce.
Oh, see, I don't know what she means by Greek sauce. That's the problem.
Now, it's because every Greek diner or Greek place that you'd go to that would have a hot dog, like I'm thinking, well, See, but I'm thinking more. That's more along the lines of a Texas hot, which, by the way, also bon appetit. The slime dog, chili dog. Okay, so it's chili. The Greek sauce is chili. See, and that's the interesting part about hot dogs and about toppings is people call it sauce, right? Greek sauce, slime sauce. It's just chili. Chili's not sauce. Chili's not sauce. It's
now,
chili.
I don't know if we've had this conversation before, but we're gonna have it now. Are you a Skyline guy? Are you a Coney dog with Skyline chili?
I've got to admit, I've never had Skyline chili.
John Scott would be so upset with you, right?
I know he would. I've first of all, I've never been to Cincinnati, or Kentucky. I've never been to that part of the country before. That's south in Ohio, but I've never. I don't know. It just has never really appealed to me to be like, hey, I'm driving near here. I got to make a pit stop in Cincinnati to go get a, Skyline chili dog.
I'm actually going to reference this later on, so it's not a spoiler for the FBI or anything, but I used to live in Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky is this weird city where it is either the southernmost northern city or the northernmost southern city, depending on who you ask. And because of that, you get this strange amalgamation of food in Louisville, Kentucky. And a lot of it is Cincinnati based, because if you live in Louisville, Cincinnati is like your pro city, because Louisville doesn't have any pro teams. So a lot of people who live in Louisville, they're Cincinnati Bengals fans. They're Cincinnati Reds fans. The Louisville Bats are the minor league baseball team. But if you're a Major League Baseball team guy, you're a Cincinnati Reds fan and things like that. And because of that, you were a hop, skip, and a jump from Skyline Chili anytime you wanted to go. And to Skyline chili. I am not a Skyline guy. There is something about cumin and cinnamon in my chili that absolutely says no. Just
is that what's interested.
in it? Yes, there's cumin and cinnamon in Cincinnati style chili. It's weird.
Yeah.
It is. It's weird.
And it looks like meat sauce. It doesn't look like chili.
Correct. It looks like meat sauce.
It's just meat sauce.
There's no beans.
Can I tell you? I don't think this is controversial by any means. But I have recently come across a firm determination of my favorite hot dog bun.
Okay, I'm ready. I have a take on this, so I'm ready for yours.
You have a take on it. Do you have a guess as to where I might be going with this?
Okay. You said you wanted your buns a little bit more substance. You said you liked a poppy seed bun, so it's not going to be poppy seed bunning because you would have mentioned that earlier.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Texas toast.
No, but we're not totally far off the beaten path here. So I am a New England style guy. So we're talking
absolutely. Yes, thank you.
We're talking standard lobster roll, a borderline po' boy style roll. But the best part about it is you butter each side, throw it on the flat top, each side, give it that nice, crisp, buttery, almost, I don't know what makes it so good. But I had a Hungarian dog the other day. There's this great event. It's called a Cook's Tour, a Chef's Tour, a Cook's Tour here in Buffalo. And it started in Buffalo, and all of the best chefs in Western New York come together for charity, and it's all for Anthony Bourdain. It's inspired by Anthony Bourdain, right? And having great sophisticated foods. And one of my favorite places here in Buffalo, Chef Ross over at Brightsmith Brewing, he made a stuffed Hungarian, a Swiss stuffed spicy Hungarian hot dog with the New England style roll on the outside. And buddy, for a hot dog, it was one of the best things there. And there was a lot of high end stuff. And there's something about that bun. It's got substance. There's a little bit more. The word isn't right, but meat to it. There's just more breading. It's a little sweet. Dense. Right. It's a little more sweet too. It's borderline King's Hawaiian-ish. So for me, I think, and it's because it's the standard vessel for lobster rolls, right? You do want that sweetness, that butteriness to a lobster roll. And I think it's a perfect combination.
I am all the way in on this. I am all the way in on lobster rolls as a method and communicative device for hot dogs. All the way in. All this talk has got me a little hungry. And I hear rumors that my wife is currently making pizza in the background and that she's going to bring some in the middle of the show. So if that happens, I'm all the way in.
Yep.
But until that does happen, we are going to continue with our discussion of the Buffalo Bills roster rooms going into 2022. And we're going to do them the way we always do them. And we're going to start off with if the Bills tight end room was a food. And since you went first on hot dogs, I'm going to go first on this one.
Deal.
If the Bills tight end room was a food, it is the food that just came to the great new restaurant in your town. You know, sometimes when you get a new restaurant in your town, especially if you live in a small town and you get a new restaurant, you're very excited, but they kind of need a little bit to work the kinks out, you know? And you go there and you get something that you think is good. And you're like, hey, this is a good meal, whatever it is. We recently got a new Mexican place that's close to our residence, close-ish to our residence. And we gave it a little bit because, of course, it's going to be disaster the second it starts.
Yep.
And then we went there.
Smart.
And I had a carnitas burrito.
Okay.
And I was very excited about it. And I thought, hey, this is really good. I think they need a little time to work the kinks out because it's new and they got to figure it out. And it's got a lot of upside and there's a lot of potential. And the ingredients all taste good individually. But there was just something where the guy just needed a little more experience. I'm not saying it wasn't good. And I'm not saying that it didn't even break out. Like, that's a restaurant I will go back to again. It's already established itself as a good restaurant. I just need a little more for it to be great. And that's the way I feel about the Buffalo Bills tight end room. At this point, Dawson Knox's floor has risen so significantly in the last year that now we go, okay, there's no doubt that Dawson Knox is a good tight end. That's not even a question anymore. He's a good tight end. The question now is, can he be a great one? Because last year, a lot of his production was tight end, touchdown related. It was touchdown related, right? He scored a lot of touchdowns last year. So can we get more catches? Can we get more targets? Can we get more yards? Is the departure of Emmanuel Sanders, the departure of Cole Beasley, the addition of Gabriel Davis into the starting lineup, scooting up the depth chart, is that going to open up some targets for Dawson Knox? Is he going to end up being a guy who's a 700, 800, 900 yard tight end instead of a 500, 600 yard tight end? Is he going to go from, I know for a fact Dawson Knox is a good tight end, to Dawson Knox is one of the best tight ends in football? Is he going to take that next step? And you look at the rest of the room and you think, okay, OJ Howard. I know OJ Howard's a serviceable tight end. I've watched him do serviceable tight end things. OJ Howard also became a really, really good blocker over the last couple of years. Now, you know he was going to be in Bruce Arians' offense because Bruce Arians, of course, notorious for not wanting to throw the ball to tight ends unless they happen to be Tom Brady throwing the ball to Gronk. So you have all this stuff and you go, okay, we know what the floor is with OJ Howard. We know what the floor is with Dawson Knox. We know what the floor is with Tommy Sweeney. We know what we've seen there. We'd like to see maybe some, if Jalen Weidemeyer cracked something and became a third tight end, okay, that's great. But, it's looking like it might be a Knox, Sweeney, OJ Howard group. And we know what that floor looks like. And that floor is fine. There's nobody who's going to look at the Buffalo Bills tight end room and go, this is bad.
Right.
We're just going to go, okay, is there room for growth? Is there room for improvement? So when I look at the Buffalo Bills tight end room, I look at that burrito, that carnitas burrito, and I go, this is good. I will come back again, but it could still be better. Nate, what about you?
So if this tight end room, Bruce, were a food, and I'm going to get very specific with this one, as I normally do, a lot of time, a lot of thought. Beef Wellington.
Oh, I love it. Let's go. Let's go.
And Beef Wellington, because it is both sophisticated but simple. There are only 4 true elements, right? Puff pastry, I guess you would call it a duxiel, I believe is how you pronounce it, which is the mushroom, shallot mixture, pate, and a filet, right? But a full-size tenderloin typically, but sirloin will do. For me, I prefer the tenderloin, right? At its very worst, Bruce, it is a whole bunch of really high-end things, right? Like Dawson Knox, right? I believe Dawson Knox has, you're talking about floors. I'll kind of talk the other way. I'll talk about ceilings. The ceiling, to me, is the Travis Kelce's, is the George Kittles. It is one of the top 3 or 4 tight ends in football. And to your point, that floor has risen considerably. And at his worst, he's a top 15, top 17 tight end in football. Arguably at his worst, he's a top 12 tight end in football. But the room itself, Bruce, teeters on something as simple as cook time, right? Because if OJ Howard is cooked, and let me tell you, he might be cooked, Bruce. He, from what we've heard coming out of, minicamp and out of OTAs, he still does not quite have that burst yet. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, Bruce, right? New offense, new routes, new responsibilities, new playbook. There's a lot going up through here. And when there's a lot happening in here, it tends to be a slower reaction in real time. So I will allow for OJ Howard to get into pads, learn the offense for the next couple of weeks, get to training camp, and potentially look slightly more explosive. He has not had that explosion, Bruce, since before the Achilles injury. And that is not an injury that everybody comes back from the same. There is not a linear recovery with torn Achilles tendons. So, like Beef Wellington, this tight end room could be one of the richest, one of the more layered dishes you can get at a high-end dining restaurant. But if it's undercooked, if that steak is not cooked through, or if you are cooking it in a vessel that is too hot and that puff pastry cooks too quickly and crusts on the top but does not penetrate the middle, or you don't cook it properly. Let's say, I think a lot of people, the smart thing to do is to sous vide it first and make sure that you have a good level cook through that tenderloin. Finish it with the puff pastry, make sure it's nice and dry. Then wrap it with that puff pastry, wrap it with your pate and your duxelle, and make sure that the middle is cooked perfectly, a perfect medium rare. Nobody wants a rare cut of meat, even if you like rare meat. You do not want rare Beef Wellington. It just does not fit well. You don't want the cold interior. You want that lukewarm. You want that pink but not bloody interior. Just like for the Bills, if OJ Howard can't be a legitimate number 2 upgrade. You mentioned Tommy Sweeney. I'm gonna mention Reggie Gilliam in here, Bruce, because I think Gilliam sort of represents the pate and versatility, right? Pate is not necessarily something you're going to put with other foods. You can eat it by itself, right? It's not the best. It's chopped up liver, right? Pate is blended up, smoothed out liver. Now you see a lot of people eat it like with charcuterie, with a cracker and some cheese, right? So it by itself, it can stand alone, much like Reggie Gilliam can play both fullback and tight end. And I think you save a roster spot, Bruce, by having Gilliam in the lineup, and either you have him at the fullback, or I think they're dressing 2 tight ends and 1 fullback. That's what I think. That's what I think the 53 is going to consist of. Just like the simplicity of the recipe of a Beef Wellington, there are not a lot of pieces to this recipe. The cook on it could not be more important, just like the development of OJ Howard. If he cannot return to the guy that we saw his rookie season, you did not upgrade from Tommy Sweeney if that's the case.
Wow. That was really good.
Thank you.
That was really, really good.
Thank you.
Moving along.
Thank you.
Defensive line. I think we're going to have more positive things to say about the defensive line. The current Bills defensive line group makes me feel like it's a food simile.
Yes,
it is. And before we go to it, Mr. Diggs in the comment section says, Khalil Shakir is the side dish, but a good complimentary dish to the tight end room food. Yeah, I don't think anyone's expecting Khalil Shakir as a wide receiver to be a main course this year. I think people are excited about what he could potentially be, given the fact that Jamison Crowder's on a 1-year deal. Mm-hmm. Isaiah McKenzie's on a 2-year deal, but he may just be a designated gadget guy. You never know what this new offense and Ken Dorsey is going to be like for him. So that is, that's pretty good. I kind of like that one. Carl says, my fear is that we don't pay Dawson is the amount of time it takes to develop a tight end historically. Even Dawson, to an extent, has taken a while to develop. Yeah, Dawson has. But also remember, tight ends are always a slow developing position.
Yes, they are.
In addition to that, you have Dawson Knox, who is a converted quarterback and ran like 6 routes at Ole Miss.
That's right. And I mean, Bruce, he was hardly, listen though, you've got to understand, I'm not saying you don't understand this, but he was in an offense that featured DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, and there was another piece to that offense too.
Was Laquan Treadwell in that offense?
No, this would have been after Treadwell. There was another piece in that offense. Maybe it was at running back or something, but
Jordan Taylor. Wait, hold on. Was it Kadarius Lodge? Was that who it was?
Yes.
All right, we're gonna find it. We're gonna find it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna make it happen. It's gonna be a thing. DeMarcus Lodge, yes.
DeMarcus Lodge. Yes.
Look
So
at me
you have
go.
three
I got the first one wrong.
NFL receivers, and a tight end who is recently converted. Here's another interesting aspect to this whole thing. And I think this is such an interesting conversation about the future of the Bills, right? Because, Bruce, I think Brandon Beane has an interesting is, I think, a funny word to use here, but a complicated decision to make at pass catcher for the Buffalo Bills heading into the future, right? What I mean by that, Gabriel Davis got 2 years left on that rookie contract. Is he going to see enough volume to truly get that elite level number 2 wide receiver contract? Borderline, the question might be better for Gabriel Davis, Bruce. Is he going to get Christian Kirk money? Is he going to be the number 2 receiver that a desperate team pays as a number 1, right? Is Atlanta going to come out and pay him to be their number 1 receiver? They saw enough from him as a number 2 to believe he could be on his own a number 1 receiver, Bruce. And the question you have to start asking yourself this year is, if you lock Dawson Knox up this offseason, which doesn't look like it's happening, it seems like maybe next offseason, if it happens at all, I believe, Bruce, that there's a very good chance Dawson Knox gets franchise tag next year because it's probably the cheaper route to go. And the question becomes, is he so good the next 2 seasons that after he gets franchised, that he's one of the top paid tight ends in football? And I think there's an argument to be made that, yes, he might be. And the question will be, Bruce, the reason I'm bringing this up is you made a great point about the development and the time of development it takes for tight ends in the league to truly develop. We still have not seen that development play out yet for Noah Fant, right? That's a guy you and me chat about all the time because you're always trying to trade for him in our dynasty league. He's a tight end that is young, that has not really blossomed into the true potential that his athletic profile suggests he will be. TJ Hawkinson, his team at the time, had a better quarterback his rookie year in Matthew Stafford, so blossomed a little quicker than most standard tight ends do in the NFL. But if you look back historically, we're on a 2 to 2.5 to 3 year developmental cycle for tight ends. And if you're drafting a tight end in the 2nd, 3rd through 7th rounds, Bruce, well, you're talking, you have 1 year of elite level play at the tight end position. So that is what makes this discussion so interesting, because when you have to make a choice, Bruce, I'm not sure there is enough money to go around for both Gabriel Davis and Dawson Knox when you've paid what you've paid for Stephon Diggs. And I will never tell you that paying Stephon Diggs what they paid him was wrong decision. I think it was the right one. And I like that they did it early before there was any disgruntled feelings, any hurt feelings. The same situation we're seeing from Jordan Poyer, to me, would have been a disaster if that played out with Stephon Diggs. It just wouldn't have been good for this team and this organization on the upward trend this offense is playing. I just think that we're entering such a unique stage that I might lean towards re-signing and prioritizing Dawson Knox because of that developmental cycle, and because of the fact, Bruce, that it seems like you're going to draft wide receivers in the 2nd and 3rd round that are going to be guys that can walk in, like Gabriel Davis, who's drafted in the 4th round. Guy can walk in and be an early developed receiver that can play meaningful snaps for you. So, yeah, I'm of the mind that this conversation, I know it evolved from, talking about comparing things at the tight end room, but I think this is a really, truly interesting conversation because not many teams pay the tight end position.
Now, let me ask you, does the fact that the tight end position have a markedly different contract scale than wide receivers impact that significantly for you? Because the franchise tag for a tight end this offseason was $10.9 million.
I think it goes up to 12.
And so this, if you look at the wide receiver market, number 2s are getting 16, 17, 18, 19 million dollars a year. Number 1s are clearing 20 easy at this point. So does the fact that you can get a top 5 paid tight end for $11 million versus a top 24 wide receiver for 17, does that alter your thinking? Does that support your thinking? How does that impact you?
So I think it's more so wide receiver 24, still really good. You might really still be in the top. If we wanted to tier it, how many receivers are in tier 1 in your estimation? Without looking, 12, 15? Is that too much? Is it maybe less of? Am I overcomplicating this? Or am I to say that maybe tier 1 has 7 to 9 players in it? Tier 2 probably has 20 players in it. right? That are borderline
Yeah.
wide receiver ones, that are really good players. Think about how the tight end position is tiered. There might be two to three in tier 1, 3 to
Depends on how
4
you
in
feel
tier
about
2.
Darren Waller.
Right? 3 to 4 to 5 in tier 2.
Yeah.
And then there is a gigantic drop off, Bruce.
Correct.
So now there aren't as many tight ends playing on the field at the same time as receivers. Almost every offense nowadays is playing 3 receivers, right? The versatility of receivers now, that some of them can block. You can have 11 personnel, 10 personnel, and not necessarily miss a beat on the ground. The thing that I believe about the tight end position is the rarity of finding elite ones that are young and are downfield threats. There are so few downfield threats at the tight end position, Bruce. The Bills have, I believe, the single best downfield threat at the tight end position in the league. I'm not saying he's better than Travis Kelce as an overall player. He's not better than George Kittle as an overall player, but he is better than both of those guys as a true downfield, deep vertical threat. I don't think it's particularly close, Bruce.
Wow.
He can run past corners.
I mean, Darren Waller's a thing.
Yes, he is. But I would not, if you're asking me who is
Noah Fant ran a 4.5.
If you are right, but what evidence do you have on film to suggest that he can be a guy that runs past corners and can be a guy that runs a 9 route like a receiver?
Well, I mean, Noah Fant's first year, I think he averaged a pretty hefty yards per reception. I'll look it up right now.
I think this has been my argument about the people who are, oh my God, the Bills don't have another outside receiver. They don't have a true number 3X, right? Like if Gabriel Davis goes down, they have no outside wide receiver to replace him, unless you're talking about Jay Kumaro, who, right? I mean, what is Jay Kumaro short of a really good special teams player, right? And then you look at, well, could Khalil Shakir, right? We're talking about him earlier. Could he move out to the outside? We had a whole podcast. We talked about that, Bruce, right? What I believe their true plan B for the outside would be is Dawson Knox. That's why they have not gone out and gone to get Julio Jones, right? Like that's why they have not gone out and get that veteran. They signed a veteran receiver, Bruce, and it was another slot guy, and Tavon Austin. And I think the reason is I think they feel very comfortable that in worst case scenario, in a pinch, that they could bring OJ Howard in to play the inline tight end and have Dawson Knox go and line up as an outside wide receiver, and they'd feel comfortable with him running the route tree against NFL corners.
So I just went ahead and looked it up. So Noah Fant's rookie year, I was right. He had 14.1 yards per reception, which was 28th in the league amongst all receivers and number 2 in the league when it comes to tight ends behind Jared Cook that year. And then the Broncos offense went to complete garbage, and they had him running flare routes and trying to break a tackle. And he's been very vocal about that since he moved to Seattle. He was like, listen, I want to play down the field. Like, I don't want you to throw me a bubble screen and try and have me break 4 tackles. That's not my game. He goes, I'm an athlete. Let's go. Let's do it. Carl asks, sorry if this was already talked about, but is Nate rocking a Genesee Pineapple Kolsch shirt? Darn right he is. Genesee Pineapple Kolsch. Not just a sponsor. Also, we wear
lifestyle.
them. Also
Yes.
a lifestyle. It's an entire general brand because
While we're
this
here,
shows.
Bruce,
So say that.
I was going to say, while we're here, we should probably give our sponsor a read. We're halfway through the show.
I was literally about to do that. I was literally on my way. I clicked open.
And then I
the
interrupted
reads,
you.
And then you had, well, whatever. You know what it is? It's Pineapple Kolsch, which is the official beer of summer, brewed with natural flavors for a slightly tart, but incredibly crushable drinking experience. Ladies and gentlemen, Genesee Brewing Company, Pineapple Kolsch. Find it at your local store. Moving along. I said that the defensive line room we were going to get to, and then we just didn't get to it.
We got a lot of time, though, Bruce.
We didn't do it at all. So we're going to go to the defensive line room right now. Okay. And I'm going to say that the defensive line group makes me feel like, and I mentioned earlier, I gave a little tease that I was going to talk about my time in Louisville. When I lived in Louisville, Kentucky, we had a restaurant that we would go to called Old
FBI.
Chicago. Old Chicago. And they were an Italian restaurant. And when I went back recently, I didn't go to Old Chicago. And I was really disappointed. I went to El Toro, which was a Mexican place around the corner from where we used to live. And it was exciting. But I didn't go to Old Chicago. So the Bills' current defensive line group makes me feel like I'm going back to Louisville and I'm going to Old Chicago, and I'll tell you why. Because when I go there, there are going to be some old favorites. The pepperoni rolls are going to be amazing because the pepperoni rolls are always amazing, and that's their go-to thing. But I'll bet you there'll be some new favorites there too. And what I can't do is I can't allow my love for the nostalgia to get in the way of the fact that the new stuff is probably the best stuff. You know, Jordan Phillips is back with the Buffalo Bills. And even though he doesn't really like me too much on social media,
He doesn't?
back. No, Jordan Phillips is not a fan of Bruce Nolan.
What did you...
You don't know the story? You don't know the story? Okay, well,
I don't think so.
when Jordan Phillips was going to become a free agent, I did a piece for Buffalo Rumblings where I said, I don't think the Bills should re-sign Jordan Phillips for what I think he's going to get. And I said, I like Jordan Phillips. I think he's a good player. I think he's going to get $10 million a year is what I said. I think he's going to get $10 million a year on the open market, and I wouldn't pay him that, right? Well, I was right. He got exactly $10 million a year on the open market. Well, he wasn't happy about that. So he responded to my article, and he said it was hot trash. And there was a bunch of people piling on about how I'm not a real Buffalo Bills fan and that this is just garbage. Because what I said was, Ed Oliver is the starting three technique for this team. I won't want to pay a rotational three tech, who I like, mind you, $10 million a year. Well, Arizona didn't want to pay him that either after it was done. So he struggled with some injuries there. But I absolutely love the fact that Jordan Phillips is back. I love him as a rotational three tech who can come in off the bench, bring energy, bring that passion, make those splash plays. You couldn't ask for a better backup rotational three tech than Jordan Phillips. I'm thrilled that he's here. And I'm thrilled that Shaq Lawson is back. I think he was the best version of himself in Buffalo. And these are my old favorites, and they're warm and they're fuzzy, and I know what I'm going to get. And that is absolutely awesome. But Von Miller is still the thing that makes this thing go. So I can go back to Old Chicago and I can get the pepperoni rolls, and they'll probably be just as good as I remember them. But I'll bet you they've probably upgraded their menu. I'll bet you there's probably something there that I haven't gotten before that's new, that's better than the old stuff. And so that's how the Bills' current defensive line group makes me feel. Yeah.
Looks like Jordan Phillips may have deleted those tweets.
Really?
I just went back. I just did a little research. Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, how about that? I feel good.
Okay, so I have I'm struggling. So I went to a diner this morning. Today, like
Did you get a burger?
No, I didn't. And the diner that I did go to actually does have a dinner menu. However, they had a patty melt. They did not have a standard burger.
Yeah, good enough.
Which I believe patty melts are a traditional diner food.
That absolutely, 100%.
Burgers? Nah. Patty melt? Sure.
Come on.
Sure.
Come on. Gonna relitigate this.
So here's the thing, right? Went to the diner this morning, and what is the thing that I normally do? And I bet a lot of other people are like this, right? This was some time ago, maybe a couple of years ago. I frequent a diner in Buffalo. I didn't go there today. I went to the diner back in my hometown in Hamburg, Peg's Place. It's a great, local small diner. But Bruce, what they're known for is banging food out. We literally opened the door. There's the vestibule, right? You open the main door from the outside to get to the middle part. You open the second door. As I opened that second door, my first foot, well, not my first foot, my girlfriend, because I held the door for her first foot stepped in for two. We were like, oh, yeah, two. I mean, I'm not even in yet, but yes, two. But that is just what they're known for. And we were in and out in 40 minutes, and I paid $26. I almost paid $1 a minute, just to be there. That is with tip included, Bruce. So that's what I love about diner food. But there's this diner in Buffalo in the city that I believe is the elite of the elite diners. There's a diner in Pittsburgh, and the name of it's escaping me, but I went to it recently when I was in Pittsburgh in May. That diner in Pittsburgh is the only one that I've ever had that might be better than Swan Street Diner in Buffalo down in the Larkinville district, right? and it was maybe 2 years ago, I decided then and there that I was done being shackled, being bound to the principles and the notion that I can only have a savory or a sweet, right? Because that is the decision that every man must decide at the diner, right? Like, is today my sweet day? Am I going to get the pancakes? Maybe I'll supplement a little savory and I'll get a couple pieces of bacon, or maybe I'll get hash browns on the side, right? I decided long ago, Bruce, that I will not subscribe to that thought process. I will not subscribe. I will not be held back from ordering 2 breakfasts at once. And since then, I have ordered 2 breakfasts every time I go. I don't want the one pancake. Give me the stack of pancakes with the breakfast. So the reason I love Peg's Place, their number 5 combo is just that, Bruce. It is eggs, it is hash browns, it is a choice of ham, sausage, or bacon, and 3 pancakes for $10. It is the American dream, Bruce, right? And it's the perfect balance between savory and sweet. I get, because when I only have sweet, Bruce, what's the thing? I'm like, I could use some salt. I just need something savory here. And when I only get savory, I'm like, shoot, I could have had a pancake, right? So again, I threw this out the window long ago. So I was going to make this conversation about me at the diner choosing between savory and sweet and deciding to get both. That's what Brandon Beane decided to do when he rebuilt this defensive line. I think maybe last year, Bruce, he had all savory, right? Maybe a little sweet was sprinkled in with Ed Oliver, but for the most part, this was an all savory line. And what he decided, Bruce, is that he wanted both for himself. He was sick and tired of being told by talking heads, by the NFL networks, by the talking heads on ESPN and NFL Live, that the best do it one way. And he said, I want to be able to do both. I want to go small when we're facing the Kansas City Chiefs, when we're facing pass-heavy teams. I want to roll out Von Miller. I want to roll out Boogie Basham, Ed Oliver, and I might even knock down Greg Rousseau to the 3 technique. Oh, we're playing the Cleveland Browns this year, and we're going to have a run-heavy team, potentially Jacoby Brissett in I formation, turn around and hand the ball off 35 times a game. Well, then I'm going to go big. I'm going to go AJ Epinesa and Greg Rousseau in the ends, and I'm going to go Tim Settle and Jordan Phillips in the middle. I have choices, Bruce. I am no longer bound and shackled by the thought that I need to choose one way to win defensively on that defensive line. I'm sick and tired of when we have to face a ground and pound run first team like the Indianapolis Colts and feel like I don't have an answer, Bruce. I need to be able to 1 week decide I'm going to sit Shaq Lawson because we're going to go balls to the wall to get after the passer. We've got an athletic quarterback in Patrick Mahomes this week. We need to make sure we stay committed to our lanes, but I also want to let Von Miller run free or be able to switch and go back and forth. So I also think of this, like the versatility of this defensive line, Bruce, is like eggs for breakfast, right? Because with eggs, you can go poached. You can go scrambled, sunny side up. This morning with my number 5 combo, I got, what did I get? I got over easy because it's been a while since I've had over easy and I wasn't in the mood for yolkiness, right? I wanted a little bit of that, the cooked yolk with a little bit of runniness in the middle. So for me, this conversation goes to versatility, but more so, Bruce, Brandon Beane deciding I'm a man who wants both. I want savory and I want sweet, and I don't care how much I've got to pay for it.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
I'm 40, and I want savory and I want sweet.
I like it. I like it.
Thank you.
It's a W.
Oh, Vlad, this is so important. Vlad, thank you for bringing this up. Thank you.
Vlad says hash browns are good when cooked right.
Now, my question for you, Bruce, are you shredded potato or diced potatoes?
I am a shredded potato guy. I think you get more surface area, and I think you get better texture. I think if you can give me diced potatoes that are crispy, I'm in. But oftentimes, diced potatoes end up being a little too soft for my taste, and I need the surface area to provide me the crunchy texture.
Okay.
So however I can get some texture differential is how I'm in.
Okay, so I really do like to shred it a lot because I don't believe it needs a lot. I think if you go cast iron, butter, you get that crisp on the outside and you get the smooth, the softer texture on the inside. I believe the conflicting textures is really probably one of its greatest assets, right? But I do really like the diced potato because you can get that crisp on the outside, but you tend to get like this soft, especially if you soak the potatoes first and then you cook them, you tend to get this like layer of like mashed potato on the outside and then the harder, firmer potato on the inside. And then when you throw that in a skillet or on a flat iron with a little butter or oil, that tends to be the part that like crisps and caramelizes, and then bon appetit. Here's the thing, Bruce. The reason that I like the shredded is because with nothing else, it's fantastic and it's good. And I believe you really live on salt, pepper, and texture with the shredded, right? With a traditional home fry, you are doing it wrong if you don't cook it with onions. I believe that, and to JR's point, cooked with onions, I believe that's what takes it to the elite level of home fries. But if you're serving me home fries that are just, some spices and potatoes, I think you've missed the boat. I don't need peppers, Bruce, but I do need onions.
I can get behind that.
Onions. White onions.
I can get behind that. And I've said before on this podcast and plenty of other podcasts, as long as you cook the onions, I'm down.
Yes.
I'm down with
onions.
I'm cooked with. It's the raw.
Cannot be raw.
I can't get.
Cannot be raw. I caramelized white onions, or if you just cook the onions down. And I almost preferably like I like them torched a little bit. Like if you could get it over like an open flame and get like the ends a little charred and have the middle a little firm but not raw. Like I agree. There's a time and place for raw onions. Home fries is not one of them.
I'm absolutely down. Okay. Winners and losers this week in the NFL.
I'm going to start with winners?
We're going to start with winners.
Okay.
I'm going to go Cameron Brate. Cameron Brate is the winner this week. He's finally at a spot now where Cameron Brate was everybody's little darling before Rob Gronkowski decided he was going to sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I mentioned before that Bruce Arians, historically not known as being a tight end receiving guy. That's just not part of his thing. Well, now Bruce Arians is gone and Rob Gronkowski is gone, which means any opportunity, OJ Howard moved on to the Buffalo Bills, any opportunity that he wanted is right in front of him. As long as he can beat Cade Otton out, Cameron Brate has an opportunity to be a starting tight end for a team that has Tom Brady as a quarterback. I cannot possibly tell you the opportunity that is in front of him right now. So for me, biggest winner this week, Tampa Bay Buccaneers tight end Cameron Brate, because we all just assumed. I think the reason why Cade Otton went so late in our dynasty draft is because we all just assumed Rob Gronkowski was coming back. Oh, he'll give it one more year because Brady's giving it one more year, right? Well, not necessarily the case. So that right there is my biggest winner of the week. Nate, biggest winner of the week.
I'm going to stay close to home. I am going to go. My biggest winner this week is Tavon Austin, and he had a great end to his mini camp, his OTAs. A lot of chatter. I saw our first way too early 53-man roster prediction. Sal Mariana of the Democrat and Chronicle in Rochester has the Bills keeping 7 receivers and has Tavon Austin as one of those 7 receivers. And I think I'm more excited to see him in pads. There are 2 guys I'm really looking forward to seeing in pads come training camp, Bruce. Isaiah Hodgins, because he has not shown out when pads have gone on. He has been the mini camp OTA offseason warrior, workout warrior. The guy you're like, oh man, he looks good in shorts. Then he gets pads on and he's almost immediately hurt and he goes to the IR, right? So that's a guy I need to see this year, and I'm excited to see him in pads because it's a make or break year for Isaiah Hodgins. The same can be said for me for Tavon Austin. I'm excited to see that quickness, what the potential evolution of the offense, what role he could play when he gets his pads on. And it'll be interesting if there's conflicting roles with him and Isaiah McKenzie if he does make the team.
That's a good one. That's really a good one. You always wonder when you have someone who is a star or shows out in OTAs and minicamp, you always wonder how it's going to translate. You know, last year, Isaiah Hodgins himself, you just mentioned it, was someone who kind of showed out a little bit in the spring. But it's not about the spring, it's about the summer. right? Nobody wins a job in the spring. They win it in the summer. So you're always interested to see how the narratives change when we get, further into the summer. Okay. Biggest loser. Nate, you want to go first?
Sure. This is easy. Daniel Snyder. He's been the biggest loser for decades, it feels like. You're gonna have to probably edit this one out, but Dan Snyder is one of the world's biggest pieces of shit. And Nate. I'm sorry, I know this is a family show, but you know what? He's a piece of shit, Bruce. And there's no nice way to talk about an employer who openly and brazenly believes that rules don't apply to him because he makes money. Bruce, did you see the tweets? I'm sorry, the Facebook posts from one of his front office people. Did you see it?
I did not.
They were on their yacht, right? And let me just so for accuracy purposes, Dan Snyder Facebook yacht post. Oh, let's see. It was something along the lines of, it was a hashtag, something about, don't hire women or something. And then it got taken down, only hire good-looking women. Hashtag hire just only good-looking women or something terrible like that. In the middle of a congressional hearing talking about the league's inability to do a damn thing about his conduct and about the toxic workplace that he has overseen for more than a decade, Bruce. The NFL, listen, everyone knows where you and I both stand on Deshaun Watson and levying the worst and the heaviest possible suspension and discipline you can at Deshaun Watson. But let me tell you, the hypocrisy and the shallow and hollow level of discipline it will be to discipline Deshaun Watson, and you come down on him with the hammer of Thor, which is absolutely warranted, but do nothing to Daniel Snyder, sends the worst possible precedent it can, which is if you're rich but more importantly, you're an owner or an employer, the rules do not apply to you. So for me, the biggest loser continues to be the NFL, Roger Goodell, who I will say this, right? Roger Goodell's hands are a bit tied here, Bruce. This is not really up to Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell is the voice for the owners. That's what he is. His job is to make them as much money as possible. And he's very good at it, Bruce. When he stops doing that, Roger Goodell ceases to exist. He will be replaced. But there is something that the rest of the other 31 owners in the league can do, and they can vote his ass out. And they should. They should Sterling him. They should. Who is the owner for Jerry Richardson? Right, the owner for Carolina. There is precedent to this. Why is it that Daniel Snyder, time and time again, sort of laughing in the face of Congress, which, by the way, the government sucks, and whether or not they should have oversight, they should be, questioning the commissioner when we have a blank storm of other issues happening in our country. I don't know. I sit in a weird place on where our government's role in regulating big business, right? There is a role that government plays in doing that. But I think for me, Bruce, I need to see somebody put their foot down here. I need the Washington Commanders to have gainful new ownership by the end of the fiscal year.
I mean, I don't think any Washington football fan would say that they're really thrilled about what Dan Snyder's put their franchise through, and they're thrilled to be fans of the team. So I don't think anyone's going to disagree with you by any means. Carl says y'all want to pitch in and buy the Commanders if this happens. I'm down. I'm absolutely down. Yeah, sure. I'll do it.
Like $20 each, $30.
Absolutely.
What are we talking here?
Yeah, absolutely. All we need is about, 20 million people, and we could do it. 20 million people give us $20 a piece. We'll get a couple billion up in here. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
Be
Publicly
fantastic.
owned.
Yeah, why not?
I'd be the face. If you guys need me to be the face, I'd be the face.
Of course you would be. What a sacrifice you're willing to make. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So my biggest loser is not nearly as awesome as Nate's. And not nearly as profound. My biggest loser is, quite frankly, lame in comparison to Nate's, and it's Samaj P. Rhyme. Samaje Perine is the backup running back for the Cincinnati Bengals and got some run as a third down back and as a player who we think can be a reasonable number 2 back in Cincinnati. Well, the rumors coming out of Cincinnati are that maybe Chris Evans is going to be that dude. And Samaje Perine's got to be thinking to himself, listen, if I can't be a number 2 back behind a workhorse, like they're not even asking me to be a committee back, right? If I can't be a change of pace, spelling third down back behind a workhorse back, one of the few teams in the league that believes in a workhorse concept, that's not great. That doesn't lend itself well toward future employment prospects. If you're someone who can't hold off Chris Evans as a spelling back, and you're thinking, okay, maybe I might not make another team, right? Maybe the NFL thing isn't going to be a whole lot longer for me if I can't hold off Chris Evans, because the backup role behind Joe Mixon isn't asked a lot of. But if you can't hold that, then maybe the NFL might not be long in your future. So for me, biggest loser this week is going to be Samaje Perine. Carl says, no, Bruce should be the face of the Commanders.
I agree with that, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at this nice round logo I have here that just spits out the name of my other show that I do on the Buffalo Rumblings podcast network. Yeah, it'd be awesome. You know, I was sitting here the whole time thinking any moment that the door was going to open and Mrs. Nolan was going to walk in with the pizza. I think she forgot about it.
Didn't happen.
Didn't
Love
happen. That. At no point did she walk in with the pizza. So I'm going to go get myself some pizza. That's what I'm going to do. Because we did it, Nate.
We're on.
We're
done. We're over. This is it.
And I'm going to have to edit this podcast. I'm going to put like a quacky noise in when you say the bad word. I'm going to put like
2 bad words
noise in. I'm going to make it happen. It's going to be great. I love how later on you said blank storm. So I appreciate you doing that for me.
I tried to help you out.
I appreciate that much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining Nate. Thank you for spending your Friday night with us. I'm going to polish off this Jameson ginger I got in front of me.
His 4th, apparently.
Yeah, man, that's what I do. So, and I'm going to go get some frozen pizza, and it's going to be amazing because Costco frozen pizza is amazing. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you had fun after what has been a tough week for a lot of people. And I hope, most importantly, that you did not leave hungry.